My name is Redic, and I am a social cultural entrepreneur and multidisciplinary artist. And the last 2 months has been quite the experience, ranging from, well, I always say I live in the land of yin and yang, good, bad, opposites, and things like that. So when I say quite the experience, it has been an ordeal. But in the midst of that, there have been a few silver linings and positive takeaways. Yeah.
What did you experience in the last 2 months?
This is a thriving metropolitan city, and so to experience this literally becoming a ghost town, I never thought that. I've been in in Shanghai for 12 years, and this is what I'm used to. You know, apparently some nights if I'm coming in rather late, you can experience the quietness of Shanghai, but I was able to cautiously go out, and I'm grateful for it. So even that, to be able to cautiously go out and take a walk, to come outside of my complex when many people were completely locked down, and to cautiously go out maybe at 4 p.m., 8 o'clock, or whenever I cautiously went out, and I was sometimes the only individual on the street. That was very Twilight Zone, very ghost town, but then sometimes it was very peaceful. I have the whole city to myself. So it was quite unusual, yeah, and sad in some aspects as well.
Did how you feel during the lockdown change, like from the first few days to the second month?
At some point, I just gave myself permission to say, okay, looks like this will be one of the days where I'm gonna have long naps. I'm gonna have long naps. And then I would, I usually do positive quotes and try to inspire and check in on people. So I was doing that, but I had to make sure that I called them, are my encouragement reserves built up, so that when I reached out or when I posted, I had enough to really deeply connect and check in with people. So the first few weeks was a bit rough, but I still was able to find a way to go forth, but also just leaning into the whole lockdown experience. Some things you couldn't do, so you just had to lean into it and see where it would take you. Yeah.
About that specifically, I know that you both create art in your home studio, but also you do performances. So parts of what you normally do, you can't do, and parts you could do. What was it like? What was similar? What was different?
So I had time to edit footage. I was filming different projects and things like that. So I had a chance to edit those footage and then tailor them in such a way where I can put them out and release video footage, but it was all positive and uplifting and things like that. So that gave me time to edit and to work, and then sharing them. Like, I finally went out where a lot of people were, and people were like, we saw your videos. They were so encouraging, so inspiring, because I was just putting them out there, hoping that if anyone came across them, that it will, bring some positivity. So that was one of the things that I did. I also worked on a few new installations on the inside of my home. And those things actually kept me busy, having something to do, but then also knowing that I would put it out there for others was also good for me to give in that aspect as well. Yeah.
Did you feel more zen, more motivated, or less so?
Some days I was more motivated, and some days I was not motivated at all. And it was just like, okay, I don't have to be. But I think that being on this type of curated lockdown experience, the human emotions and the way we are wired, it gives us time to reflect. And so in no way was I thinking about or comparing myself to like leaders or people that I admire, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, all of these people that were forced, or had time of isolation. But I really did look at the solitude aspect of it, and I went inward. And that ability to kind of go inward and be more reflective was good for me.
There was also an aspect of open-endedness. We didn't know how long the lockdown would last. Did that affect you?
Yes, it did. It affected me. I think one of the biggest things that I was most grateful for was the ability that I could some days kind of cautiously go outside, because I'm a free spirit, and that sense of having no autonomy over my mobility was really something that angered me. It upset me, knowing that if my building or my complex was heavily watched like some of the others were, that I would have no ability to even put on a mask and take a walk or get on my bike and then come back inside. And so I can spend, depending on my day, when in certain modes of how I work and how I live my life, I can spend at least 2 or 3 days in my home and be fine not going outside. But when that mandate and that choice was imposed, so the sense of autonomy, but of course, you wanted to be mindful and caring of the whole situation of what was taking place. So that was something that really, yeah.
Do you have a lot of friends here in Shanghai? We heard about a lot of people who are either staying or leaving. How do you feel about this? What do you say to people who make a different choice than you do? I assume you're staying, right?
I am staying, but I want to leverage this lockdown. Has made me really look at how I will move forward, being vested in China, vested in Shanghai. And so I have been here for 12 years, so this has literally become my home, away from home. I love the city, I love the people, I love the opportunities that I've been able to work for and that have been afforded to me. But I've always said that I'm having an international experience, with China as the backdrop. Shanghai is very different. And it's you have Chinese coming from all over China, and you have foreigners coming from all over the world here, and we're gathered here. So I always thought of myself as this as a base, but not really looking for projects and opportunities outside of this base. As a result of this, and as a result of the way things have been handled, I definitely am looking to expand but somehow leverage this. But definitely, it's time to not move on, but move forward in a different way, in the way I engage and live in Shanghai, for sure, absolutely.
So when you were locked down and you were thinking about all those things, what were you looking forward to doing first the most, and what was it like when you actually got the opportunity?
I think the thing that I've been looking forward to the most was coming back in contact with my friends, moving forward with projects, but even that is still, we are still, I've called this, the first pandemic lockdown, the term new normal. And so I said, are we new normal 2.5, 3.0? whatever, going back to whatever, that's not there. So we're still trying to figure out what this next reiteration of the new normal is. And so it's really trying to, again, this sense of having autonomy, you know, knowing that you're never in control of anything, but at least ability to plan and have a sense of autonomy, particularly in what I do. All of that has just still, those variables are just still up in the air. And as much as I like to improvise and play things by ear, there's a balanced sense of structure and sense of direction. So I really had to kind of lean into my experiences and knowing that regardless of what happens, my life is grounded and I'll be okay, I'll be fine. And so just kind of resetting myself to say, okay, some things are on the horizon that I have no idea of what they would look like, but I feel like I need to kind of map out a broader road for me to walk on.
How do you feel about what's coming up next, the next 6 months? Do you feel confident or?
I'm still adjusting. I mean, we've only been out for a week or so. And if I choose to stay here, I feel like the whole Shanghai is resetting itself and reorienting and getting its bearings together. And so I'm a part of that. You know, I'm a part of what happens now or what happens next. But being able to have some solutions in the areas of my career and industries that I work in, it's like away with this let's wait and see. Enough of let's wait and see. I think that it's a way that to start, well, this could be a possible way forward. And so I'm on the opposite end of, again, trying to take back some sense of autonomy, not only for myself, but how I engage professionally and how I engage with others as well. Because it's just like this whole, we don't know, at some point, if things are this way and you are part of it, then you can help contribute to in some capacity.
You know, since you mentioned autonomy, during the lockdown, a lot of people could only eat what was delivered to them. They didn't have much choice in what they would get. What was it like for you? What was the experience?
So the first 2 days, I had enough stocked up for food rations and things like that. We knew that we were going into lockdown, so I had prepared enough groceries for a week or so. But when things began to run low, I was able to again kind of cautiously go out. And I remember 2 incidents. One, a huge grocery store was open. It was open, and so they were in there preparing boxes or whatever, and I went in wanting to buy food. And because the way the system was set up, the ability to say, okay, hurry up and go home, but quickly buy or quickly take a purchase, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And then I was walking and there was a bread cafe that was open, and they were baking fresh bread. And I'm just like, you won't even sell me bread? And so they didn't know how much food I had left or what my situation was, but they knew that there was a lockdown. They knew that there was food and bread, and no. So just in one sense, the humanity of how my neighbors kind of came together and rallied around and made sure that we had enough for each other. That was like beautiful to see, neighborly love and care and concern. But from a system-wise, because of the, I guess, whatever orders that were given out, if you were able to go outside or manage, it was only only what was applied, and that in itself. So one night, here's one interesting story. Again, this is big Shanghai. And so one Saturday, I was out and I saw some people with like bags of groceries, and I needed to get some water. And so I was like, hey, where did you get those groceries for? And it's like, oh, if you go around the corner, there's a little shop that's open and they will, and so I got a big jug of water and took it home. And then the following weekend, of course, the water is low, and I'm in home just kind of in my own world, and something was like, Redic, you need to order some water. You need to get some water. And I was like, oh, I'll just sneak back out and go to that shop that I went to the previous weekend and get some more water. And when I went there, it was boarded up. It was boarded up. It's a Saturday, maybe 10 p.m. I promise you not. I biked within like a 5-mile radius. Like, I'm like, okay, I'll just bike, and I could not find water. And I'm just like, I am in Shanghai and I cannot find water. And so literally I texted my neighbors again. We were all kind of looking out for each other. And I'm like, can I borrow a bottle of water and I will get you back on the next. And the fact that it's 10 p.m. on a Saturday, I'm biking, and I was like, oh, I'll just keep biking because I know I'm going to find water. No water to be, and that in itself was just like, this is Shanghai? So it's those types of things that were really very surreal, very sobering, and scary at the same time. Having said that, you know, I've managed, I mean, I'm still here. I mean, I may need to do a little bit of lockdown workout, so I managed to eat quite fine, but you know, we had to become creative and more relying upon each other, which in that sense, that's part of the beauty of what this lockdown has done. I think people became more caring, more connected, and more concerned. And so to see that was beautiful. So when I finally got into one of the food groups, I think I was the only Lawai in the group, and it was like, we can't let our Lawai starve either, so make sure. And so we took care of each other. So that aspect, I hope that we don't lose that sense of care for others as things begin to open back up, because that was really powerful and beautiful to see.
So how do you the lockdown is over for a week now, how do you feel now?
Still apprehensive, very apprehensive, because before the lockdown there were kind of sporadic lockdowns going on, and even after the lockdown there are rumors that we may be locked down again. There are other complexes that are still being locked down, you know, the tracking system. So there's still this uncertainty. And I think the uncertainty, if you're not careful, it can breed a sense of insecurity, and also too, because no one wanted to get locked down or taken away to any of the compounds, if someone had caught the virus or tested positive, it was almost like, and I had to make sure that I did not entreat anyone like, oh, they have it. So I think it's made people a little bit more scary to interact with others, just for fear of like, I don't want to catch it because I know I'll be sent away, or you know, even a stricter lockdown. So I do know people that were sent away. My building is a small compound, and the rule was that if anyone in your building had it, the whole compound was taken away. And so two of my neighbors, elderly neighbors, so first of all, they were elderly neighbors, and some kind of way they got it. And I'm just like, well, I know they were not going anywhere. I mean, most times people are just going to the testing and back home, but they got it. And they came and took them away. And luckily, for whatever reason, they did not take the rest of the tenants away. And so, but you can feel the apartment building was even more empty. So I was fortunate that but clearly they had grounds, I guess, to whatever rules to come and take us to one of the compound centers. But no, so I was able to stay at home with two neighbors contracting it and still be able to stay at home.
I have to ask, what happened to the two neighbors after that?
Eventually, so when they took them away, another concern was the spray and the harsh chemicals. So actually they would come to the house for almost 2 weeks and they would spray in the house those harsh chemicals. And so that became a concern, like, well, what actually are we breathing in? So we would lock our doors, to make sure that none of those chemicals. So eventually the first neighbor that was sent off, he came back after 2 weeks and they monitored him at home and he was released. And then the other elderly neighbor downstairs, she was able to come back. So that was a good thing that they were, and I was really concerned because they were older and had some respiratory problems before. So so I would check in on my neighbors and say, hey, how are you doing? And he was like, everything is fine. So they returned safely.
I'm very glad to hear that.
Yes.
Hey, I'm also very glad you took the time to talk to us today. I hope we get to see you again soon on stage.
Things are opening up somewhere or another. I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.